Why are you so energetic today?
I did nothing.
All right, camera's rolling. Let's resume with 2 Kings. We are at chapter 24. All right, chapter 24, Judah switches from being a vassal to Egypt to being a vassal to Babylon. In his days, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came up, and Jehoiakim, because his servant became his servant 3 years. Then he turned and rebelled against him. All right, so you'll want to make a note to Jeremiah chapter 27, verse 12. Jeremiah chapter 27, verse 12 chronologically matches up with this rebellion of Jehoiakim. Verse 2, and the Lord sent against him bands of the Chaldeans, those are the Babylonians, and bands of the Syrians, and bands of the Moabites, and bands of the Ammonites, and sent them against Judah to destroy it, according to the word of the Lord, which he spoke by his servant, the prophets. So you can also make a footnote here. This is the first Babylonian captivity. So the Babylonian captivity happens in stages. In this first rebellion, King Nebuchadnezzar sends Chaldeans out to attack Judah, and they take some of the princes from the land away. The prophet Daniel is taken as a young child in this first raid. All right, and so he's taken as a young boy. He's one of the aristocracy of Judah. He's taken to Babylon in captivity, and he grows up in the royal palace. What was common for conquest back then in the ancient world is that the king who conquered would often like to take the most talented from the nation that he conquered and put them in his service. And so typically, like, the wealthy people tend to be the ones who are talented because they figure out how to accumulate wealth. And so Daniel's family was one of the better off families in Judah. And so he was taken, and then he's brought up in the royal palace, right, as, a way for the king to, like, okay, I'm going to tap into these skills that the Jews have, all right, and see what they can offer. And he has 3 other companions with him. I always get confused with the stupid VeggieTales movie, Rack, Shack, and Benny. But that's not their names. It's something else. It's a little bit longer. But they're in the book of Daniel.
Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego.
Yeah, Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego. Very good. All right, verse 3. So those 3 guys are also taken together over in their youth. Verse 3. Surely this came upon Judah at the command of the Lord to remove them out of his sight for the sins of Manasseh, according to all that he had done, and also for the innocent blood that he had shed. For he filled Jerusalem with innocent blood, and the Lord would not pardon. Now the rest of the deeds of Jehoiakim, and all that he did, are they not written in the book of the Chronicles of the kings of Judah? So Jehoiakim slept with his fathers, and Jehoiakim, his son, reigned in his stead. And the king of Egypt did not come again out of his land, for the king of Babylon had taken all that belonged to the king of Egypt, from the brook of Egypt to the river Euphrates. Jehoiakim was 18 years old when he became king, and he reigned 3 months in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Nehushta, the daughter of Elnathan of Jerusalem. And he did what was evil in the sight of the Lord, according to all that his father had done. Jump ahead to verse 12. And Jehoiakim, the king of Judah, gave himself up to the king of Babylon, himself and his mother. So you can make a note here to Jeremiah, chapter 13, verse 18. Jeremiah chapter 13, verse 18. And so Babylon comes, conquers Jerusalem. The king voluntarily gives himself up, just as Jeremiah prophesied he would back in those verses that I just gave you. In verse 14, he, the king of Babylon, carried away all Jerusalem and all the princes and all the mighty men of valor, 10,000 captives, and all the craftsmen and the smiths, none remained. except the poorest people of the land. So 2 footnotes you're going to add here. This is the second exile, and this is when the prophet Ezekiel is taken. All right, so historical context for the book of Ezekiel. And then the second footnote to have is that it's the poor who stay behind, which is sweet for them. So because the king has been, for a couple of generations now, implementing paganism and idolatry, if you want to maintain a good social status, what do you got to do under a monarchy? Yeah, you're gonna become buddy up with the king. You're not gonna call him out for what he does. He'll get in trouble like other prophets did. So the aristocracy, all right, in Jerusalem that's being taken away. These are people who would have been totally in line with, King Jehoiadin's sins. All right, they would have either not said anything or they would have gone pagan themselves to make him happy. Okay, the people who are poor are the righteous people who remain behind. All right, those who did not sin, all right, did not abandon Yahweh to try to please some political figure. They didn't get very far in material means in their life. But guess what? All the rich people are gone. There are a bunch of Ferraris sitting in the garages and mansions ready to be moved into. Nice. Okay, so being left behind is a good thing. All right, so these people basically inherit the wealth of the land. And these righteous people, they get to live in houses they didn't build. They get to take over the vineyards that they didn't plant. Okay, and it's almost like they get the promises of Deuteronomy given to them again because of their faithfulness. Verse 15. And he carried away Jehoiakim to Babylon, the king's mother, the king's wives, his officials, and the chief men of the land. He took into captivity from Jerusalem to Babylon. And the king of Babylon brought captive to Babylon all the men of valor, 7,000 and the craftsmen and the smiths, 1,000, all of them strong and fit for war. And the king of Babylon made Mattaniah, Jehoiakim's uncle, king in his stead, and changed his name to Zedekiah. All right, so following the chronology, Jehoiakim is a son of Josiah, and then Zedekiah, all right, is now his name. All right, and so he gets this name change. When you give someone a name, that's a sign of authority over someone. Think of like Adam naming the woman Eve after the fall, all right, or the parents giving you your name. Now the king of Babylon's changing his name, all right, and so Jerusalem, Judah is completely at the submission of Babylon. All right, so verse 18 is the reign of Zedekiah. Zedekiah is nothing but a puppet king for Babylon. He's just there to make sure the taxes arrive on time. Zedekiah was 21 years old when he became king, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Hamutal, the daughter of Jeremiah of Libnah. Verse 19, and he did what was evil in the sight of the Lord. Verse 20, for because of the anger of the Lord, it came to the point in Jerusalem and Judah that he cast them out from his presence. And Zedekiah rebelled against the king of Babylon. So Zedekiah is rebelling now against Babylon. Make a note to Jeremiah, chapter 21, verse 8. And then at chapter 25, in the 9th year of the reign of the 10th month, of the 10th day of the month, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babylon, came with all his army against Jerusalem and laid siege to it, and they built siege works against it round about. All right, you can make a note here to Jeremiah chapter 39. And then you'll also want to have a footnote that this takes place in 587 BC. This is the third and final Babylonian exile. And some people still remain behind. And one of the people who remains behind is Jeremiah. And so Jeremiah, his mission has been, to assist Josiah and then to condemn the kings who come afterwards and tell of the coming destruction. And now he's left behind with the poor, and then his mission turns to consoling the poor, and then he's now preaching to them about the restoration. All right. We will finish off Kings tomorrow. There's only just a few more passages we have to read, and then we're done with that book. And then we'll jump into the book of Daniel, because it would come chronologically first, then Ezekiel, and then Jeremiah.